Good morning everybody. It's Saturday the 12th of March when this video was taken, and I'm at the Windsor Precinct Parkrun, which is in Riverside in Launceston, Tasmania. I should at the beginning confess that although the video was taken on the 12th of March, I'm recording it much later. In fact, it's the 9th of April when I'm recording it, and the reason for that is to do with technical issues that aren't worth explaining. I had on my camera on a chest strap, as you're probably familiar with from my other running videos. It's the better of the two cameras, the one that doesn't sort of sway quite as much side to side and gives better vision. But because I was running a park run in an area where, although I've been a few times before, lots of people probably don't know me, it's a bit odd to be sort of talking to yourself while you're running. So I decided to record the audio later. So that's where we're at. So Windsor Precinct, as I said, is in Riverside, which is one of the suburbs northwest of the CBD in Launceston in Tasmania. The Windsor Precinct is a community hub, and in that community hub there are a number of buildings which include a gym, a medical practice, a dentist, some related sort of medical type things. There's a preschool. There's also a number of sports grounds for AFL, round ball, football or soccer, cricket, and then there is this area here which these paths follow around, which is the sort of wetlands, nature area, and there is also there's a community garden which we would have passed a little bit earlier. So this is the park run, which in Tasmania is run on Saturdays at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a much more civilised time, especially in winter. If it's going to warm up, it's warmed up a little bit by 9 o'clock. And this course is two laps of a 2.5 kilometre track, and you'll see all the details in the maps and charts and stats and all that sort of stuff at the end of the video. All the paths are made gravel as opposed to sealed concrete or asphalt or something like that, so you get a slightly different feel under your feet, and you certainly get the sound of gravel crunching under your shoes, which is kind of a different sort of music than you might get through your headphones or that kind of thing. It sets up a rhythm when you're running, and parts of the course run along the extended floodplain of the Tamar River. So this area we're just going into now, and you can see the high reeds on the right hand side and also on the left hand side. But on the right hand side, probably about half a kilometre, maybe a kilometre away, is the river. So the floodplain is quite wide here. The Tamar River is the result of the confluence, as it's called in geographic terms, of the North Esk and South Esk rivers. Now the North Esk flows out of the mountains and comes into the town behind the University of Tasmania Stadium, and the South Esk flows down through Cataract Gorge and under the King's Bridge, and where those two rivers meet at the Silo Hotel and the Riverbend Park, they become the Tamar. The Tamar then makes its way, I think, about 70 kilometres, winding its way towards Bass Strait at Low Head. So parts of the course run along a path. You can't actually see the river, but locals, it's there. At the moment we're going up the back of the soccer fields, and on the right hand side, although you can't see it, is an AFL field. AFL is of course a very big sport in Tasmania, very popular, but as I say, there are a number of soccer fields here, and then a little bit further up you'll go and you'll see there are cricket training nets and so on. So at the end of this section of the course, we will come to the first turnaround point, which will be 1 kilometre from the start. And the people who run the the Windsor Precinct Park Run are always very good and have a volunteer at that point, just to make sure that you're safe when you turn around. And then you go back almost the same way you've come, but as you will see when we get to that point, there's a bit of a diversion to make the 1.5 kilometre loop. Now the thing about this course then is, although it's pretty flat, and you'll see that in the stats and graphs and charts and all that sort of stuff later on, the elevation's not very great. is that you have to kind of have a slightly different strategy from, say, running the Goulburn Park Run. In the Goulburn Park Run, you run out 2.5 kilometres. This is the turnaround point. You saw the marshal there. In the Goulburn Park Run and many other park runs, I guess, you run out 2.5 kilometres, you turn around and come back again. This one, you run 1 kilometre and then you turn around and you go again till you come to another turnaround point, and you'll see that a little later on. And then you've completed one loop of what is a 2-lap course. So you've got to have a slightly different strategy. Now, I have to admit that I don't really have a strategy. I just start out running and hope I can keep running until the end and try and maintain a reasonably consistent pace. I know there are runners who have strategies of negative splits and trying to make each kilometre faster than the one before it, and also of trying to not burn out in the first couple of kilometres and have enough in the tank to put on a good run at the finish. I tried those sort of things, and I found that once I get into a rhythm of running, if I start out slowly, I'm generally going to end up running the whole course slowly and not have enough. I don't know what it is, whether I don't have the psychology or don't have the physical strength or whatever it is to say, well, okay, I need to go fast now. I'm on my second leg, or on the 3rd kilometre, or on the 4th kilometre. I need to pick up the pace now. By that time, I'm into a routine or a rhythm of running at a certain pace, and I'm not always able to pick up the pace. I should have said earlier, those who used to watching my videos would be familiar with just seeing my hands pumping up and down as I'm running and working out whether to keep them closed or open or whatever, and mainly concentrating on what's in front of me, what you can see while I'm running. You can see these high, thick reeds on either side and bushes. I'm not the star of the show. The run is the star of the show, and I think I've said it before, I've got a good head for radio, so I try not to put myself on camera, and I don't have one of those sticks that you can put your camera on and carry it around with you, and besides which I just find it would be difficult to run holding the camera out in front of you, and I figure nobody's actually interested in seeing me. You're more interested in seeing where I'm running and the scenery and where I'm talking about. So we're on the return leg of the first part, and you can see now on the right hand side there is is the road or the path I came down from the start to the first kilometre. So now we're going on the return leg, and you can see we're going around a slightly different loop here, and in here if you come at the right times of the day, you get to see lots of wildlife and bush turkeys in particular, but there are also lots of there's a small marsupial, a very small wallaby type animal that's called a pademelon, spelled Pademelon, that looks like a small wallaby, that is unique to Tasmania, that live in the area around here in the reeds and in the scrub here. And if you come at the right time of the morning and are very quiet, you can often see them. Family groups, 2 or 3 or 4 of them, other times just individuals. So I'm ploughing away here I've passed obviously the first kilometre, and my aim with this run always is the same as it is when I'm doing the Goulburn Park Run. With the Goulburn Park Run, I want to finish in under 30 minutes. I want to try and finish in the top half of the field, and I want to be past the 2 kilometre marker before the first runner is on their way back doing the second lap. Now, on this course there are no markers like there are on the Goulburn one or on many other park runs, but I have on my watch, my Garmin Vivo HR thing, it buzzes when I pass a kilometre marker, so I get a buzzing on my wrist, so I know when I've passed 2 kilometres, and the first runner on the way back hasn't passed me yet. So I've at least fulfilled that goal. As far as the other 2 go, I won't know, of course, until I finish the course. Launceston has 3 park runs. There is this one here. There is one on the other side of the river that begins behind the University of Tasmania Stadium. They don't own the stadium, they sponsor it, and it's where the Hawthorn Football Club play their AFL games when they're playing in Tasmania. And it goes on a 5 kilometre loop around Churchill Park. It's also very flat. I have run that course once officially, and run it unofficially many times, and taken my dog walking around there many times. So that's the second one, and it usually attracts 200 to 300 runners. That's a big gap between 200 and 300, I know, but the time I did it, I think there were 300 runners, and most times it's 250, something like that. So it's a very big crowd. This one here attracts 60 to 80 runners, very similar in size to the number of runners it would be at the Goulburn Park Run. And then there's another one called Kate Reid Reserve Park Run, which I understand is run all on trails, and I haven't ever been to that one. It's in the southwestern suburbs near a suburb called Prospect, and I haven't been to that park run just because I have never been at that sort of a distance from my house. It's not impossible to get to, it's just this one is much closer, and I like this one here. I like the people who are here, and I like the course. I did the other one once, I think because this one was closed for another event once, and whilst the course is quite easy to run, I didn't enjoy it quite as much. As a much bigger crowd, and it takes a long time for the crowd to thin out. Anyway, this is a very picturesque course, and I quite like running it. And here I am being overtaken by an 11-year-old girl. So we're coming up to another branch off on the first leg. This is to avoid collisions on the course, I guess, but also to make sure that the course is fully 2.5 compliant. So the girl's only doing the 2 kilometres, and I'm telling her to go this way, and she says, no, I'm doing 2 kilometres. And so you go around this little loop here on this side track, and the marker's there to tell you not to go there. And keep going. And watching your own shadow, you can see how sometimes you don't pump your arms enough. And my right arm is being pumped a lot more than my left arm is for some reason. And I've been very conscious of that since this, and since I've seen myself running into my shadow running like this, and tried to make my left arm run more to get more push or more out of the arm movements, but it's not made any difference. Now, just coming up here is a second cone to turn around. And there's a little bit of loose gravel here, so you need to be careful. And the girl in the black or the woman in the black that I had passed a little bit earlier, she'd been in front of me for quite a while, and I passed her. Then she took a spill here, so I think the only thing that was hurt was her pride and a bit of a scrape on the knee, but she managed to continue the run and finish the run that day, so I was happy about that. No one was seriously injured. Probably pride and time are more affected than anything else. So we're on the second loop now, and we're just coming up to the start line. And if you look carefully on the left hand side as we go past here, you'll see the finish line. I think we might just be coming to it now, just through there. On the left hand side you'll see the race, the run director, and there's the race that you go through to the finish line. And we've got to do all this all over again now, so you get a bit of a push, I guess, going downhill here. Lots of native trees and bushes and things in this area here. This area is maintained by the West Tamar Council, which is the council that is responsible obviously for this part of Launceston, or this part of the town, not so much Launceston, but and there are lots of native trees and lots of landscaping, and many of the native trees have little labels on them. Bushes, shrubs and things have labels on them to tell you what they are. I don't know anything about plants and trees, but I do know these things have names on them, so I walk around here just before warming up or as a warm up and get to know the course. I see the labels. There are also a number of pieces of sculpture in here that are a bit like the ones on the Goulburn Park Run track, in that they're pieces of public art that the council has purchased and installed here. On the left hand side here, this painting is part of the West Tamar Community Garden. I don't know a lot about how these things operate, but there's one here and there's one at Churchill Park, and there seem to be plots of ground that people come and tend to and plant. I think it's mainly vegetables, and then they harvest them, and I guess either they sell them at markets themselves, or they use them for their own personal use, or they provide them to various groups and organisations that need food for the hungry. I think it's a good idea. There's plots of ground, there's people who are willing to look after the ground, there's people who are willing to tend to it and fertilise it and do all the things that need to do to bring the plants to harvest stage. And then they come and, as I say, harvest their plants and sell them or whatever. There's also just below the community garden there is a dog park. So there's quite a number of facilities here, and it's a very popular place, not so much on parkrun day or at parkrun time, but a very popular place for dog walkers. I've come here other times and brought my dog here and played around in the dog park and walk around the track here. You have to make sure you keep your dog on the lead when you're on the track though, because there's lots of wildlife here and dogs like it, if it's not on the lead, chase the wildlife. Coming up to the fork in the road, fork in the path that leads to continuing around to the first kilometre, just past about 3 kilometres here, I think. So it's that second to third kilometre or third to fourth kilometre that's always the difficult one in a race. I don't know why you spend all your energy running the first two and then you sort of fade a bit and get a second wind from here. But the suburb you can see on the left-hand side is here. Sort of just see the trees. That's the end of the suburb of Riverside. As I said, on the northwest of Launceston CBD. If you continued up the West Tamar Road, you would get to Beaconsfield and Beauty Point, and then Greens Beach. And at Greens Beach, you're sort of at Bass Strait, and somewhere beyond there is the mainland. But I think most people in Tasmania think, well, who cares? We've got everything we need down here. And on the other side of the river, although you can't see those suburbs, there are a number of suburbs including Mowbray, Mayfield and Rockalee. And going up the side here where the football fields, the round ball football fields are, and you'll see in a moment there are some people walking their dogs along in a little area here, and the dogs were certainly giving me a good bark and telling me to hurry up. And although I was going as fast as I could, I assured them that I was going as fast as I could. A beautiful sunny day, as you can see, lovely clear blue sky. I'm going to say it was something like 14 or 15 degrees at this time of the morning, and very pleasant running conditions. Not too hot and certainly not too cold. You see most people are running in singlets, including me, and there's just assuring the dogs that I was running as fast as I could. And most people running in shorts and singlets, or t-shirts and singlets. There are a few people with jackets and things, and there are walkers who are wearing something a bit warmer because obviously they're not generating as much heat, but it was very pleasant, warm conditions, just the right sort of conditions for running really. Just off to the left hand side there you can see that building is the grandstand for the cricket oval. I turn around point again with the marshals there, and I reckon we must be at something like 3.5 or 3.25. I'm going to say 3.25 maybe kilometres, and we'll come up to the fourth kilometre just about where the track forks again. And I suppose the good thing about, well, I know that the good thing about being at this point now is that you know that you are on the homeward stretch. You've done your 2 outwards and you're on the way back, and there's a little bit of a gentle slope downhill here, so you can pick up your pace a little bit and maybe pick up a bit of speed and a bit of time. Just here on the left hand side there's some of that outdoor gym equipment. Very popular, that outdoor gym equipment. As people in Goulburn would know, there are 2 or 3 lots of outdoor gym equipment on the park run course in Goulburn. There is outdoor gym equipment here, and there's also outdoor gym equipment at Tail Race Park, which is not too far from here. It's another running track that I use sometimes, but I think they're a good idea. good to see people out using them and exercising and doing them. I think the thing about any of that is if you want people to be out and be active and lead a healthier lifestyle, you have to provide the kind of facilities that will encourage them to do so. So here with all these tracks that are made, they're quite safe and comfortable to walk on. The Goulburn Park Run and all of those paths that have been laid around the Wallandilly that become the River Walkway in Goulburn have brought out lots of people, I think. Well, I've seen lots of people walking and running and riding their bicycles with their children and so on that probably weren't out being active before because there weren't proper facilities for them to do that. And so spending the money to pour the concrete and build the paths and build the tracks and put in playgrounds and then where necessary put in toilets and drinking facilities and so on will bring people out and will get people leading a more active lifestyle. And I know there are people who only do park run on a Saturday, and that's their exercise, and that's better than no exercise. But I know there are also lots of people, I see them on the various running tracks that I go on here. So this is coming up to about 4 kilometres here. You can see just on the left-hand side there's a marker to sort of show you that you're on the right track. I see lots of people out on a regular basis on the days that I run, which is usually 4 to 5 days out of the 7. I made this comment before about what to do with your hands when you're running. Do you have them open and try and force them open, and force them to stay open when they tend to want to close, or do you keep them closed and then you end up, keeping them closed, you end up sort of clenching your hands, and that creates tension in your biceps and your triceps and also the muscle just below your shoulder blade. Well, it does for me anyway, and I find sometimes I get a bit of discomfort in my shoulder blades or just below the shoulder blade from clenching my hands too tight. So I try to sort of let them fall open and relax, but they tend to you tend to then feel as if you're forcing them to stay open so that they won't clench up, or if you let them sort of do their thing and close up, then they tend to, well, I tend to anyway, clench them and, as I said, get that discomfort. Alright, so we've passed around the large bend, we're on the up way well and truly back now, and there's a sort of gentle slope here. It's not very steep, as I said earlier. You'll see in the graphs and charts and all that sort of stuff, the elevation here is not great, but there's a sort of gentle rise here, and then there's another dip, and then another gentle rise up towards the community garden. I'm going down the dip here, just coming up to the dip. And the suburb you can see over the left-hand side there in the background, that would also be Riverside, but would also be part of it would be the suburb of Trevellyn, where my house here in Tasmania is. So there's some people walking, running, whatever, on their second lap. We're just going past the community garden now. I think it's always best for me anyway to be watching these things in full screen if you can, if you get much better picture than just in the little screen. If you can do that, or theatre mode rather than just a little screen mode. It's a very picturesque course, and these trees that are along, bushes that are along the course sort of provide nice shadows and dappled light over the track that is interesting to enjoy while you're running. 'Cause, 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 I'm about to take the fork, take the low road here, just over, coming up to where these marker cones are to tell you not to run, is the local Catholic primary school. Its playground and fences back onto this area. Riverside has a Catholic school, a public school, or a primary school as they call them here, and also a high school, and I think there's also a secondary Christian college. I think it's called Launceston Christian College. So it's well served by those things, and there's a Woolworths supermarket and a small shopping mall there, and some specialty shops and hairdresser and so on, so it's well served in that regard. Now I'm going to come up to the marker cone for the turnaround point again. Nobody in front of me to fall over, and I don't think anyone behind me to fall over this time, which is good. And you try to put on a big finish. Not quite running up the zipper of the Wallandilly course in Goulburn. I try to put on a bit of a sprint here for the finish. So the video is about to come to an end, and you'll find all the charts and all that at the end. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've found it interesting to look at Parkrun at Windsor Precinct. I will talk to you again when I'm making another running video, which will be very shortly. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later.